Right guys, we're taking another look at the E60 M5 again today, and in particular the M button down there on the steering wheel, look. So I think there's a lot of guys out there that have never driven one of these cars, never owned one, and I think there's a misconception out there that the M button is just like a sports button or just a bit of a gimmick, but it's so much more than that. It's a really cool feature of these cars. So of course with the E60 M5 you've got that glorious 507 horsepower V10 up front, planted in what looks like a pretty regular looking sedan. That's what makes these cars awesome. So that's what makes these cars amazing to drive. But of course you don't want to be driving a hardcore sports car all of the time. You know, there'll be times when you're just cruising around town, or you might be daily driving, or just want to get from one place to another. You might be stuck in traffic. You don't want to be going out all of the time. So what's great about these cars is you can just pull them settings back a bit, the engine settings, the suspension settings, gearbox settings, just to make the car a little bit more subdued, a little bit more comfortable to drive. And the main way that's done is with the buttons on the center console here. You know, you got your power one, 400 horsepower, 500 horsepower. You got your dynamic stability control settings there, your traction control, just on or off. And then you got your EDC, that's your damper controls. So you can go comfort, normal, or sports. But rather than having to mess around with the buttons each time, you can actually get the car dialed in and set up just how you want it with the press of the button. And that's the whole idea with the M button. And all the settings that are behind this button, you can just go a little bit more in depth than what's available down here on the center console. And that's all done through the iDrive. Okay, so we'll go over to the iDrive and take a look at that now. Right, so we'll just push the button straight into information. Now we've got these different options along the top of the screen here. So we're going to choose mDrive. Now this is where we can dial in our settings for the M button, so we can get it set up just how we want it. So start top of the list, got SMG drive logic. So this is basically how you want your SMG transmission set up. So we can click into that. We can go S, which is your manual settings, where you'll change gear using the shifter stick or the paddles on the gearbox. So we can click into that, S being manual, and then D for drive logic, which is your automatic. So we'll go manual and then choose that, and then we've got 6 settings here for your shift settings. So number 1 being slow, and that's sort of nice and cruisy shifts, and then just progressively going from 1 to 6. Let's see. So this basically setting up the harshness of your shifts. So we can start off number 1 slow and cruisy, right up to number 6 where you're just banging it through the gears and it's real harsh but real sporty, and so no messing around, it's bang 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 through the gears. So we'll leave it on 5 there. Now the next one, EDC, that's your electronic damper control. So real cool shocks and struts on the M5 here. It's got the EDC suspension. So what that is, to make the shocks stiffer or softer. So there's 3 settings for that. Let's go into that now. So we've got comfort, which is just your normal setting. So that's just if you're cruising around town or you're on a bumpy surface, it'll just accommodate for that. Then you got normal, which makes it a little bit harsher, a bit more like an M car, but not too harsh. And then you've got sports, which is just a more hardcore sports car setting. But the beauty of this is it will, even in comfort mode, if you encounter a sort of uneven surface or you're really putting the car into the corners at a decent speed, them shocks will push back on you. So it's a real good setup, real interesting. It'll just adjust so you can really get into them corners, and the car will handle awesome because them shocks will just push back on you in the corners to keep the car level. Awesome setup, but this just gives you 3 options to get it set up just how you want it. Now the next one, DSC, this is your dynamic stability control. So this is essentially your traction control. So we can, let's click into that. Let's see, so you can turn it off completely, or we can turn it on, that's just like normal setup. And then you've also got in this setup the M dynamic mode, which is basically, it'll turn the traction control off pretty much most of the way, but it'll leave it just on in the background there. So if you do push the car to the limit and you're just about to lose it, it will most of the time just rescue you and get you out of trouble, but it does give you that bit of room, that leeway to have a nice play with the car. And then next up you got the power. Let's click into that. So you got the P400, which is the 400 horsepower. You got the P500, 500 horsepower, And then you got P500 Sports, which is pretty much 500 horsepower, but it just gives you a nice progressive accelerator pedal there. And then next up we can change our head-up display settings. So let's go into this. So what do we got? So I'll just show you this now. So I've got a microfiber on the screen here, so we can see what we're doing. So this is just the normal standard without the M button being pressed. You just got your miles per hour there. If I hit the M button now, gives you that awesome looking colourful rev counter. Also lets you know what gear you're in. And it's also got the speed down in the bottom right hand corner there. This is a really cool feature, but I prefer looking at the actual rev counter itself when I'm getting on it, because this thing, it's a bit too digital. You know, it'll go up in blocks when you're really going for it, whereas this, it's a bit more progressive. You've got the analog gauge there, so although that's pretty cool, I do prefer the analog gauge. Okay, and what's up next? Yeah, we just got the reset to default, so we don't want to do that. That's pretty much it. That's your settings under your M drive option in the iDrive. So we'll just go over to the instrument cluster. So I'll turn everything off. So we hit the M button and it gives you that little round circle, the green one with the M in it there, just to let you know that it's activated. It is a really cool feature if you've got it set up so you've got 500 horsepower or 500 horsepower sport. As soon as you hit that button, you can feel the whole car just transform. You know, it's your throttle pedal, the way the car feels, everything, it just bang straight away. You're just so much more responsive, and it's like the car's just rearing to go. Awesome feature. Anyhow, hope this video gave you guys out there a bit more information on the M button there. I'm M Tech Guy. Thanks for watching.